Rockhounding in Michigan offers a very wide variety of rocks and minerals to be discovered across the state. This is due to a unique geological history that formed the Michigan Basin, resulting in the shape and landscape of the state, forming as concentric circles that radiate outwards from the center, comprising of rock from each geological period of the Paleozoic era, and even over 1 billion-year-old rock from the Proterozoic era, at the outer reaches of the Upper Peninsula, which used to be considered some of the oldest geological rock in the United States. Rock in this area is some of the only igneous, volcanic, and metamorphic rock in the state, where many metals and granitic sequences can be found at the surface, while much of the rest of the state is sedimentary rock, sourced from many oceanic deposits from surrounding regional material that was deposited in layers over the state as the Michigan Basin formed, resulting in many great fossil hunting opportunities. Michigan's more recent surface, also being carved by the last glacial period of around 12,000 years ago, had formed and deposited many glacial erratics across the state as well. With this brief geologic history of the state, let's get into some of the well-known and some of the not-so-well-known rockhounding adventures you can get yourself into. Across Michigan, rockhounding can essentially be divided into 3 different regions, depending on what type of treasures you are searching for: coastal, interstate, and Upper Peninsula. Coastal rockhounding makes up most of the immediately accessible shorelines around the Lower Peninsula and some of the Upper Peninsula. This is mostly for finding things like fossils, Petoskey Stones, beach agates, euperlites, and more. The interstate primarily focuses on the Lower Peninsula beyond the coast, where minerals like gypsum, calcite, and other carbonates can be found, but generally in just specific locations. The UP has a much different geological composition and thus completely different types of rocks and minerals that can be found, sourced from 1 billion plus year old volcanic flows where many abandoned ore mines can be visited. Starting with the most easily accessible and a majority of the casual rockhounding trips in Michigan, the coasts of the Lower Peninsula have many different beaches and collection areas to find many different stones washed up from the Great Lakes. Fossil hunters will often make the trek to places such as Alpena or the Rockport State Recreation Area, where fossils such as gastropods, crinoids, brachiopods, trilobites, corals, and more can be found. The most famous of corals amongst Michigan rock hunters is the Petoskey Stone, otherwise known as hexagonaria, which has its origins from around 400 million years ago during the Devonian period, along with many other fossils you can find on the shores of Michigan. Some fossils can even be nearly 550 million years old from the Cambrian period, during times when Michigan was covered by a warm, shallow ocean. A lesser-known cousin of the Petoskey Stone is the Charlevoix Stone, that is distinguished by a much smaller honeycomb pattern, and is also a coral like the Petoskey Stone, but managed to outlive it by nearly 150 million years longer. Other than fossils, there are some other types of stones that are sought after on the shores of Michigan. One of these are euperlites, which are mostly found on the shores of Lake Superior, especially around the Keweenaw Peninsula. A mineral known as sodalite is responsible for the famous glow these stones exhibit, which glow an orange color when exposed to UV light. These stones are easy to miss, so if you intend on hunting some down, it is recommended to bring a UV flashlight with you on your trip. Another type of famous stone found on the shores of Lake Superior are the Lake Superior agates. These were formed from vesicles of ancient silicate lavas where the bands of quartz and chalcedony slowly cooled in layers, forming the beautiful patterns that are sought after. While euperlites and agates are generally associated with Lake Superior, there have been some findings across beaches in the Lower Peninsula, so it is advised to go check any rockhounding reports on your destination before you go. While there are much less easily accessible opportunities for rockhounding away from the shores of Michigan, there are many places across the Lower Peninsula where crystal hunting can be done, and many beautiful specimens of gypsum, calcite, quartz, celestite, and more have been found. These crystals are mostly found at abandoned or open quarries scattered across southern and mid-Michigan that were originally opened as gypsum or limestone mines, which contain outcrops of many large crystal-bearing minerals. Many quarries, however, are not open for immediate public access, and require a call ahead for permission to rockhound, or require you to be part of a rockhounding club or educational group, so it is best to check your local area for any groups that host rockhounding trips. Next up on the list, and the area that offers the greatest variety of rockhounding opportunities, is the Upper Peninsula. Before getting into the volcanic rocks, coppers, and other metals of the UP, let's talk about pudding stones, famously found on Drummond Island. Though located around the entire Lake Superior region, pudding stones are a type of conglomerate, specifically the type around Drummond Island being a jasper conglomerate. Jasper being the chunky red blobs embedded into the stone. The pudding stone here is formed from a quartz matrix with large pieces of bright red jasper, also a silicate mineral like quartz, but given its distinctive red color from iron inclusions present in the mineral. These can be found scattered across Drummond Island, even as large glacial erratic boulders the size of cars in some places. It is also semi-common for many of the glacially moved pudding stones to wash up on the shores of the Upper and Lower Peninsula. Moving on to volcanic rocks of the UP, these are mostly found in the middle and western parts of the peninsula, near the Keweenaw area and westward. Rocks and minerals that can be found here include metals, most famously native float copper, but also including hematite, calcite, quartz, basalts, Isle Royale greenstone, epidote, gypsum, prehnite, and more. Many of these minerals are sourced from lava flows that occurred in the state over 1 billion years ago, from upwelling of deep earth material, and are the only volcanic rock that can be found in the state. Upwelling of magma was largely responsible for the many metal mines that are scattered in the Upper Peninsula, some of which have been abandoned and open for rockhounders. Cliff Mine and Central Mine are two mines which have mining tailpipe areas that are open for rock picking most times of the year. Keweenaw also hosts Keweenaw Mineral Days, where Seneca Mine, Central Mine, and Wolverine Mine are open to the public for surface mineral rock picking. Otherwise, it is advised to check the details of a mine before making your trip, as even many abandoned ones are on private property. Before you make your trip, there are always a few things to be aware of. First, check and make sure the mine or quarry you are attempting to visit is open to the public, or how to gain access, and the accessibility of the site. If you are choosing to visit a coastline area, national park, or lakeshore, you are not legally permitted to collect anything from these areas. If it is private property, you are also not allowed to collect unless given permission from the property owner. If it is a state-owned park, you are permitted to collect 25 pounds per year of stones in total, and a varying amount from certain USDA-administered sites. So make sure to check the type of site you intend to visit while you plan your trip. There are also a few recommended items you should bring as well. Some rockhounding adventures can take you well into the wilderness, so it's a good idea to be well prepared. This includes things like good heavy-duty waterproof boots, a helmet for places such as mines or quarries, puncture-proof gloves, or a collection bucket. Some further out areas may also have bad or no cell phone signal, so if you choose to go to an area that's off the beaten path, it's a good idea to bring basic navigation and survival items such as a compass, whistle, flashlight, and extra food and water. If you're looking for things like Upper lights, remember to bring a UV light, and if allowed for some areas, a rock hammer is a good idea as well. Overall, Michigan has had a very unique and turbulent geological history along its lands, from being covered in many oceans, having magma spewed from the earth, and giant glaciers carving its surface, all of which resulting in a plethora of rockhounding opportunities to be had. Check out some of our other videos if you'd like to know more about the details of Michigan's geological formation or the history of other famous rock formations in the state. If you would like a part 2 with even more rocks you can find across Michigan, or would like to see another rock featured, leave a comment below.